Welcome to Elizabeth's Stories. Today we follow Dorothy Williams, a 67-year-old widow exploited by her son and daughter-in-law, who wins $53 million dollars and reclaims her independence. Subscribe and hit the bell for weekly videos uncovering tales of justice and empowerment. Share your thoughts below. Let's start the stories. The wind howled through the skeletal branches of the old oak outside my window, its gnarled fingers scratching at the glass like a warning. I sat in the dim glow of a single lamp, my fingers tracing the edges of a worn lottery ticket. The numbers etched into my memory like a spell: 14, 23, 31, 45, Powerball, 18. For 32 years, I'd carried these numbers, a quiet ritual born from love and loss, a whisper of hope in a world that had grown increasingly shadowed. My name is Dorothy Williams Dot, to those who know me, but lately I've felt like a ghost lingering in a house that was never meant to be my home. 3 weeks ago, on a frost-bitten morning in Cedar Falls, Iowa, I stood at the counter of Murphy's Corner Store, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and newsprint. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside my boots, leaving damp prints on the warped wooden floor. Jimmy Murphy, the boy who'd once begged me for penny candy when I brought my son Marcus here, looked up from behind the counter. At 25, his eyes still held that spark of kindness, a rarity in a town that had started to feel like it was holding its breath. Morning, Mrs. Williams' Jimmy called, his voice warm, but tinged with something else. Pity, perhaps, for the widow who'd lost her place in the world. The usual, "You know me too well, Jimmy." I slid 5 crumpled dollars across the counter, my hands trembling, not from the cold, but from the weight of the years. Same numbers. He punched them into the machine. 7 for the day I married Harold, 14 for Marcus's birth, 23 for our anniversary, 31 for the house where we built our life, for the years we shared, and 18 for the day Marcus graduated high school, his face alight with dreams I thought would last forever. The ticket printed with a soft hum, and I tucked it into my purse next to Harold's faded driver's license, a relic I couldn't bear to part with. It was more than a ticket. It was a tether to the life I'd lost, a secret I carried like a talisman. "Cross your fingers for me, Jimmy," I said, forcing a smile. "Always do, Mrs. Williams. You're due for some luck." His words hung in the air, heavy with an unspoken promise, as if the universe itself was listening. As I stepped back into the December chill, the town felt different, darker somehow, as if the gray clouds overhead were hiding something more than snow. Cedar Falls had always been a place of quiet routines, but lately I'd sensed a current beneath the surface, a whisper of secrets waiting to unravel. I passed the house Harold and I had shared for 43 years, its white walls and black shutters now painted a garish yellow by the new owners. Harold would have hated it. Dignity, he'd always said, is in the details. Our home had been a sanctuary, a place where love and respect were woven into every corner. Now it was a stranger's house, and I was a stranger in my son's. Marcus and Ashley's sprawling colonial loomed at the end of a manicured cul-de-sac, its 3-car garage and gleaming windows a testament to ambition stretched beyond reason. I'd been living here for 2 years, ever since Harold's death left a void that grief couldn't fill. They called it the guest room, but it felt more like a cell, a pale yellow cage with white furniture and a view of their perfect lawn. Guests don't pay rent, though, and my entire Social Security check disappeared into what Ashley called household expenses. I let myself in through the back door, hanging my coat on the hook where Marcus's Little League jersey once hung, where Harold's work shirts had smelled of sawdust and promise. The house was too quiet, save for Ashley's voice drifting from the kitchen, sharp and animated as she spoke on the phone. "Dot, is that you?" Her tone carried that familiar edge like a blade wrapped in silk. I could see her through the doorway, pacing in her designer workout clothes, gesturing wildly as if the world hung on her every word. Just me, I called back, swallowing the urge to add, "Sorry for breathing your air." Survival. I'd learned meant biting my tongue, keeping my dignity tucked away like that lottery ticket. But dignity was a fragile thing, eroding with every demand, every sidelong glance that reminded me I was an inconvenience in their carefully curated lives. The day Harold died, the world tilted. December 2022, a Tuesday, the air heavy with snow and sorrow. His funeral was a blur of platitudes and store-bought sandwiches, Marcus delivering a eulogy that painted his father as a provider, a family man. Ashley dabbed her eyes with a black handkerchief, but I'd never seen her cry real tears. Not for Harold, not for anyone. "Mom, you can't stay in that big house alone," Marcus had said as we drove back from the cemetery, his voice soft but firm. "It's not practical." I'd stared out the window at the frozen fields, remembering how Harold used to hold my hand on these same roads, dreaming aloud about the life we'd build. Practicality was never part of those dreams. "I've managed for 65 years, I said quietly. "I think I can handle a few more." "But the upkeep, the snow, the lawn." Ashley chimed in from the front seat, her voice dripping with concern that felt rehearsed. "At your age, Dot, those things are dangerous. What if you fall? What if no one finds you for days?" Her words were smooth, polished, but there was something beneath them, a calculation I couldn't quite name. I should have seen it then, the way her eyes flickered when she mentioned the guest room, the way Marcus avoided my gaze. But grief blinds you to the vultures circling, especially when they wear the faces of family. Their house was a monument to excess, a kitchen island bigger than my first apartment, a mortgage I suspected they couldn't afford. The guest room was pleasant enough on the surface, clean lines, soft linens, but it was a stage, not a home. "It'll be like a hotel," Ashley had said, plumping the pillows with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your own space with family nearby." The first month wasn't terrible. I cooked dinners, dusted the shelves, kept to myself when they needed privacy. They seemed grateful, though I noticed they never offered to cover groceries or utilities despite my Social Security check vanishing into their account. By the second month, the requests began to pile up like snowdrifts. "Dot, can you watch Emma and Jake this weekend?" "We need couple time." "Dot, can you grab our dry cleaning? You're already at the store." "Dot, can you stay for the cable guy?" Slowly, I became less a guest and more a servant. My days filled with tasks that left no room for my own. At night, alone in that yellow room, I'd hear whispers, not voices exactly, but something softer, like the house itself was trying to tell me its secrets. I'd find myself staring at the lottery ticket, those numbers glowing in my mind like a code to something greater. Harold used to say, "The universe has a way of balancing the scales, Dot. You just have to wait." I didn't know what I was waiting for, but I felt it a current, a pull, like the tide before a storm. One evening, as I folded laundry in the basement, I overheard Ashley on the phone, her voice low but sharp. "It's perfect, really. Dot's pension covers most of her keep, and she handles the kids when they're here. It's like having live-in help, except she pays us." Her friend's laughter crackled through the line, and something inside me snapped, not loudly, but quietly, like a thread stretched too thin. I wasn't family to them. I was a transaction. The realization settled like frost, cold and unyielding. I thought of Harold, his steady hands, his quiet wisdom. When someone shows you who they are, Dot, believe them the first time. I hadn't believed it, not until now. But as I stood there clutching a basket of their clothes, I felt something shift, a spark, a flicker of the woman I used to be. The lottery ticket in my purse seemed to hum as if it knew what was coming. That night, I dreamed of Harold. He stood in our old white house, the shutters black as midnight, his eyes soft but urgent. "Keep your eyes open, Dot," he said. "The truth is closer than you think." When I woke, the room was colder than it should have been, and my purse sat open on the dresser, the lottery ticket glinting in the moonlight. I didn't remember leaving it that way. The air in Marcus and Ashley's house always felt too clean, too sterile, as if it had been scrubbed of anything human. The guest room they'd given me was a study in calculated perfection. Pale yellow walls, crisp white linens, a window that framed their manicured lawn like a painting of someone else's life. But at night, when the house settled into silence, I'd hear it a faint hum, like the pulse of something alive emanating from the walls, or perhaps from the lottery ticket tucked inside my purse. It wasn't just a piece of paper anymore. It was a secret, a spark, a promise that the universe wasn't done with me yet. I'd been living here for 2 years, ever since Harold's death left me unmoored, a ship drifting without an anchor. The move had seemed logical at the time, a way to stay close to family to fill the void with the laughter of my grandchildren Emma and Jake. But logic I'd learned could be a trap. Marcus had framed it as concern. "Mom, you can't stay in that big house alone. It's not safe." Ashley had nodded her smile, as polished as the marble countertops in their kitchen. "We have plenty of room, Dot. It'll be like a fresh start." A fresh start. Those words haunted me now, as I stood in their gleaming kitchen chopping vegetables for a dinner they'd eat without a thank you. My Social Security check, $1 to $350 a month, disappeared into their account labeled Household Expenses in Ashley's meticulous spreadsheets. I'd thought it was temporary, a way to contribute while I found my footing. But as the months wore on, I realized it wasn't about contribution. It was about control. The first month had been almost pleasant. I cooked hearty meals, Harold's favorite pot roast, my mother's cornbread recipe, hoping to fill the house with warmth. I dusted the shelves, folded laundry kept to my room when Marcus and Ashley needed space. They'd thanked me, their smiles bright but fleeting like sunlight breaking through clouds before a storm. Emma and Jake Marcus's children from his first marriage would visit every other weekend, their energy a fleeting reminder of the joy I had once known as a mother. At 8 and 10, they'd barrel into the house, leaving a trail of muddy shoes and laughter, and I'd soak it up, grateful for their chaos in this too perfect world. But gratitude, like dignity, erodes under pressure. By the second month, Ashley's requests began to multiply, each one delivered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Dot. "Could you watch the kids this weekend? Marcus and I need some couple time. Dot, can you pick up our dry cleaning? You're already going to the store. Dot, the cable guy's coming tomorrow. Can you handle it?" I'd nod, say, "Of course, because what else could I do?" My savings were gone, spent on Harold's medical bills, and my pension was barely enough to cover their demands. I was trapped a guest who paid for the privilege of being invisible. At night, alone in my room, I'd clutch Harold's old driver's license, his face frozen in a half-smile that seemed to watch me. Sometimes I'd dream of him standing in our old white house, his voice low and urgent. "Dot, you're stronger than you know. Don't let them dim your light." I'd wake with a start, the room colder than it should have been, the lottery ticket glowing faintly in my purse, or so it seemed. I told myself it was just grief playing tricks. But the house felt alive, its shadows shifting in ways I couldn't explain. Once I found my purse open on the dresser, the ticket lying exposed, though I swore I'd zipped it shut. Another time, a photograph of Harold and me slipped from its frame, landing face up on my pillow. Small things easy to dismiss, but they left me with a sense that something or someone was watching. Ashley's voice grew sharper as the months passed, her patience thinning like ice in spring. "Dot, you left dishes in the sink again," she'd say, her tone implying I'd committed a crime. Marcus, my son. The boy I'd raised to value family would avoid my eyes, retreating to his office or the golf course, leaving me to navigate Ashley's demands alone. I began to notice the way they spoke about me when they thought I couldn't hear. One evening, as I folded laundry in the basement, Ashley's voice drifted down from the kitchen, her phone pressed to her ear. "It's honestly a godsend," she said, her laugh brittle. "Dot's pension covers most of her costs, and she handles the kids when they're here. It's like having a live-in maid, except we don't pay her." Her friend's laughter echoed through the line, and I froze, a pair of Marcus's socks clutched in my hands. The words cut deeper than I expected, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. I wasn't family to them. I was a convenience, a line item in their budget. I carried the laundry basket upstairs, my face a mask of calm, but inside something stirred a spark of anger, or perhaps defiance. That night, I sat by the window watching snow fall like silent accusations. The lottery ticket felt heavier in my purse, its numbers whispering memories of Harold, of the life we'd built together. I'd always thought of those numbers as a tribute to him: 7 for our wedding, 14 for Marcus's birth, 23 for our anniversary, 13 for our house or for our years together, 18 for Marcus's graduation. But now they felt like something else, a key, a weapon, a way out. The dreams grew more vivid after that. Harold appeared again, standing in a mist that wasn't quite fog, his eyes piercing. "They're hiding something. Dot," he said, his voice echoing as if from a great distance. "Look closer." I woke with my heart pounding, the room bathed in an unnatural glow. The lottery ticket was on my nightstand, though I was certain I'd left it in my purse. I stared at it, the numbers shimmering, like they held a secret I wasn't yet ready to understand. By summer, Ashley's requests had become demands delivered with the efficiency of a corporate memo. "Dot. We need to talk about the financial arrangement," she announced one morning, her coffee mug steaming as she spread papers across the kitchen table. The word arrangement landed like a stone in my stomach. She slid a document toward me, an itemized list of expenses highlighted in yellow: $800 for rent, $200 for utilities, $300 for food and supplies, a total of $100 to $300, exactly $50 less than my monthly check. This seems high. I said, my voice steady despite the sinking feeling in my chest. "I'm only one person, and I'm at the senior center most days." Ashley's smile was all teeth. "But you're using the kitchen, the bathroom, the laundry. And when Emma and Jake are here, you're around all weekend, which increases our costs." Her words were rehearsed, polished, as if she'd practiced this pitch in front of a mirror. Marcus hovered nearby, pretending to read his phone, but I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he avoided my gaze. I signed the agreement because what choice did I have? An apartment on $50 a month was a fantasy, and subsidized senior housing had a 2-year wait list. But as I scrawled my name, I felt Harold's presence, a whisper in my mind. "They're not who you think they are." I pushed the thought away, but it lingered like the hum in the walls. The role of grandmother was my only solace. Emma and Jake's visits were bursts of light in an otherwise gray existence. I'd bake cookies with them, tell stories of their father as a boy, watch their eyes widen at tales of Harold's adventures fixing up our old house. But even those moments were tainted. Ashley would complain about the mess, the noise, the exhaustion of having children in the house. It's like running a boarding house, she told her sister on the phone one day, not realizing I was in the laundry room folding their clothes. And with Dot here, it's double the work. Double the work. The irony stung. I was the one scrubbing their floors, cooking their meals, watching their children while they jetted off for romantic getaways. I was the one paying to live like a servant in their home. The realization grew heavier each day, a stone in my chest that threatened to crush me. But at night, the dreams kept coming. Harold, always. Harold standing in doorways or by windows, his voice a quiet warning. You're not alone. Dot. The truth is coming. One November evening, the breaking point arrived. Ashley was hosting one of her dinner parties, the kind where her friends sipped overpriced wine and discussed their latest investments. I'd spent the afternoon preparing appetizers, stuffed mushrooms, bruschetta, things I'd learned to make for Harold's work events, and cleaning the house until it gleamed. I served drinks with a smile, ignoring the way Ashley's friends glanced at me, their pity thinly veiled. As I collected empty glasses from the living room, I overheard Ashley talking to her friend Jennifer, their voices low but clear. It's worked out perfectly, Ashley said, swirling her wine. Dot handles all the domestic stuff, watches the kids, and her pension covers her expenses. It's like having live-in help who pays us. Jennifer laughed, a sharp, delighted sound. That's brilliant! You should write a book, How to Monetize Your Mother-in-Law. I stood frozen, the tray of glasses trembling in my hands. The room seemed to dim, the air growing thick with that strange hum I'd come to recognize. I looked down at the tray, and for a moment I swore I saw Harold's reflection in the glass, his eyes sad but resolute. I carried the tray to the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, and climbed the stairs to my room, my heart pounding with a mix of rage and clarity. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't family. This was exploitation, plain and simple. In my room, I sat by the window, the snow falling outside like a curtain between me and the world. I opened my purse, the lottery ticket glowing faintly, or was it my imagination? The numbers stared back at me, each one a piece of my past, a fragment of the life I'd lost. I thought of Harold's dreams, his warnings, the way the house seemed to pulse with secrets. Something was coming. I could feel it, a reckoning, a truth that would shift the ground beneath us all. I didn't know what it was, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the helpless widow they thought I was. Not anymore. As I slipped the ticket back into my purse, the room grew colder, the hum louder, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt a spark of something fierce and unyielding. Harold had always said the universe had a way of evening the score. Maybe, just maybe, it was finally my turn. The snow fell heavier now, blanketing Cedar Falls in a silence that felt both oppressive and alive, as if the town itself was holding its breath. I stood in the kitchen of Marcus and Ashley's Colonial, stirring a pot of chili for Emma and Jake's weekend visit, the hum of the house louder than ever. It wasn't just the refrigerator or the furnace. It was something deeper, a pulse that seemed to emanate from the walls, syncing with the rhythm of my heartbeat. My purse sat on the counter, the lottery ticket inside it, heavier than it should have been. Its numbers whispering secrets I wasn't yet ready to hear. For weeks, I'd felt it a shift, a gathering storm. And now, as December tightened its grip, I sensed the truth was closer than ever. Ashley's voice cut through the quiet, sharp and purposeful. Dot, we need to talk. She stood in the doorway, her tablet clutched like a shield, her workout clothes traded for a tailored blazer that screamed business. Marcus hovered behind her, his expression uneasy, like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. The air felt charged, as if the house itself was leaning in to listen. About what I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my hands tightened around the wooden spoon. The chili bubbled its warmth, a stark contrast to the chill creeping up my spine. Ashley set her tablet on the kitchen island, swiping to a set of architectural drawings that glowed under the pendant lights. "We've been thinking about the future," she said, her smile practiced, but brittle. "This living arrangement has been fine, but we're starting to feel like we need our space back as a couple. So we've decided to convert the basement into a mother-in-law suite for you." The words landed like a stone in still water rippling through me. The basement, a damp, shadowed space where Marcus used to store his old baseball gear, where boxes of forgotten memories gathered dust. I glanced at the drawings, sleek lines, a tiny kitchenette, a separate entrance that felt more like an exile than an upgrade. A suite. I said my tone neutral, though inside I felt the spark of anger flare brighter. "That sounds like quite a project." "It's an opportunity," Ashley corrected, her voice bright with false enthusiasm. "You'll have so much more privacy, Dot. Your own space, your own entrance, almost like your own apartment. The contractor says it'll be done by spring." Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on the floor. "It's for the best, Mom. You won't need to use the main kitchen as much, and it'll give us all some balance." Balance. The word hung in the air, a euphemism for isolation. They weren't just moving me out of their way. They were burying me, tucking me into a corner of their lives where I'd be less of an inconvenience. I looked at Ashley's tablet, the drawings glowing like a blueprint for betrayal, and then at Marcus, my son, who couldn't meet my gaze. The hum in the walls grew louder, a low vibration that seemed to urge me to act, to see. "And if I don't want to move to the basement?" I asked, my voice quiet, but edged with steel. Ashley's smile tightened, her eyes flickering with something that might have been irritation or fear. "Well, Dot, we've been thinking about that too. This arrangement has worked, but we're starting to need our space. The basement suite gives you independence while keeping us close." She paused, her fingers tapping the tablet. "But if you'd prefer to explore other options." The silence stretched taut as a wire. Marcus cleared his throat, finally looking up. "Mom, we've gotten used to having you here. Your family. But if you wanted to look elsewhere, we'd understand. Other options." At 67, with $50 a month left, after their household expenses, my options were a subsidized senior home with a 2-year waitlist or a crumbling studio in the worst part of town. They knew it, and I knew it. They had me trapped, and the smugness in Ashley's eyes told me she was counting on it. But as I stood there, the hum in the walls seemed to pulse stronger, and I felt Harold's presence, his voice from my dreams echoing. "Look closer, Dot. The truth is coming. I'll think about it," I said, turning back to the chili, my hands steady now. But inside, I was anything but calm. The spark of defiance I'd felt was growing, fanned by the strange energy in the house, by the ticket in my purse that seemed to hum in time with my resolve. That Friday, I walked to Murphy's corner store through a blizzard, the snow stinging my face like tiny accusations. The sidewalks were slick, treacherous, but I barely noticed. My life had become treacherous, a maze of obligations and betrayals disguised as family. The bell jingled as I stepped inside the warmth of the store, a brief respite from the cold. Jimmy Murphy looked up, his smile faltering as he saw my expression. "Rough weather for walking Mrs. Williams," he said, his voice gentle. "I've walked through worse," I replied, pulling $5 from my purse. Same numbers. Jimmy punched them in 7, 14, 23, 31, 45. Powerball 18, and the machine hummed, spitting out the ticket that felt like a piece of my soul. I thought of those numbers differently now. They weren't just memories of Harold, of Marcus, of the life we'd built. They were a code, a promise, a power I hadn't yet claimed. I tucked the ticket behind Harold's driver's license, the plastic worn smooth from years of touch. "Cross your fingers for me, Jimmy," I said, but my voice carried a weight I didn't recognize, as if I was speaking to the universe itself. "Always do, Mrs. Williams," he replied, his eyes lingering on me a moment too long. "This could be your week." Walking home, the snow swirled around me, and I passed a group of teenagers sledding down the hill behind the elementary school. Their laughter cut through the storm, pure and untainted, a reminder of Marcus at that age when he'd build snow forts and beg to stay outside until his lips were blue. Where had that boy gone? When had he become someone who could stand by while his wife planned to banish his mother to the basement? The hum followed me, not just in the house now, but in the air, in the snow, in the ticket, burning a hole in my purse. Back at the house, Ashley was on the phone with the contractor, her voice clipped. "Yes, we need the cheapest options for everything. It doesn't need to be fancy. It's just for one elderly person." Her words sliced through me, reducing me to a problem to be solved, a line item to be minimized. I slipped upstairs to my room, the hum louder now, almost a song. I sat by the window watching the snow bury the world and pulled out the ticket. It felt warm in my hands, impossibly so, and for a moment I swore the numbers glowed pulsing like a heartbeat. That night I dreamed of Harold again. He stood in the basement surrounded by shadows that moved like living things. "They're hiding more than you know, Dot," he said, his voice low and urgent. "The ticket is your key. Trust it." I woke with a start, my breath visible in the cold air of my room. The ticket was on my nightstand, though I was certain I'd left it in my purse. I picked it up, the numbers staring back at me, and I felt a surge of something fierce courage, perhaps, or destiny. Friday night, 10:59 p.m. I was in bed reading a library book about a woman who inherited a house full of secrets. The late news flickered on the TV, a perky blonde anchor announcing the Powerball jackpot $53 million. My heart skipped as she read the numbers 7, 14, 23, 31, 4if, and Powerball 18. For a moment, the world stopped. Those were my numbers, the ones I'd carried for 32 years, the ones that held my life with Harold, my love, my losses. I fumbled for the remote, rewinding the DVR to hear it again. "Sunne turat pianoat Powerball 18." My hands shook as I reached for my purse, the hum, now a roar in my ears. I pulled out the ticket, my fingers clumsy, and there they were, printed in stark black and white: 7, 14, 23, 31, 45 PB, 18, 53 million. I sat back, the ticket trembling in my hands, waiting for reality to catch up. After 32 years of hope, of $5 bets, I'd won. Not just won, I'd won big. The room seemed to pulse, the shadows shifting in the corners. I swore I saw Harold's silhouette by the window, his half smile, both proud and sad. My first instinct was to run downstairs to tell Marcus and Ashley to share this impossible joy with family. But then I remembered the basement, the household expenses, the way Ashley's voice had called me one elderly person. I remembered the hum, the dreams, Harold's warnings. This wasn't just a win. It was a weapon, a key to a door I hadn't known existed. I slipped the ticket back into my purse, my heart racing, but my mind clear. The hum softened as if satisfied, and I turned off the TV. Sleep was impossible, but I lay in the dark, my thoughts spinning. The ticket wasn't just money. It was power freedom, a chance to rewrite my story. But something else stirred in me, a question that refused to be ignored. What were they hiding? Harold's dream echoed in my mind, his words a puzzle I needed to solve. The house was quiet now, but I felt it watching, waiting, as if it knew what I was about to become. By dawn, I had a plan not fully formed, but a seed rooted in the certainty that this win was mine alone. I thought of the basement of Ashley's spreadsheets of Marcus's silence. I thought of Harold, who'd loved me enough to warn me from beyond the grave. The ticket was warm in my hand, its numbers a promise, a spell, a reckoning. Whatever secrets this house held, whatever truth lay buried, I was ready to find it. And when I did, Marcus and Ashley would learn what happens when you underestimate a woman like me. The morning after the lottery numbers were announced, the house felt different, charged, as if the air itself was holding its breath. The hum I'd come to know so well pulsed stronger now, vibrating through the walls, syncing with the beat of my heart. I sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee that had gone cold, my purse resting beside me like a silent conspirator. Inside it, the lottery ticket burned with a warmth I could no longer dismiss as imagination. Its numbers 7, 14, 23, 31, 45, Powerball 18 were no longer just memories of Harold of Marcus of the life we'd built. They were a key, a weapon, a truth that had chosen me. I'd won $53 million, and the weight of that secret was both exhilarating and terrifying. I hadn't slept. How could I? The realization that I held the power to rewrite my life kept me awake, my thoughts spinning like snowflakes in a storm. Harold's voice echoed from my dreams. "They're hiding something, Dot. The ticket is your key." I didn't know what he meant, not yet, but the hum in the house, the way the ticket seemed to glow in the dark, told me I was on the cusp of something bigger than money, something like justice. Saturday morning arrived with its usual chaos. Emma and Jake were visiting for the weekend, their laughter filling the living room as they argued over the TV remote. Marcus was in his office catching up on work emails before his golf game, his absence a familiar shield against the tension in the house. Ashley predictably was already dressed for yoga, her manicured nails tapping her phone as she planned her day. "Morning, Dot," she said, barely glancing up. "I'm heading out. Can you handle the kids?" "Of course," I replied, my voice calm, though my pulse quickened. The ticket was in my purse, hidden but alive, and I felt its presence like a second heartbeat. I moved to the kitchen to start breakfast pancakes for the kids, the routine grounding me even as my mind raced. I was about to set the table when Ashley's voice called out sharp and impatient. "Dot, where did you put those cereal coupons?" She was rifling through my purse, her hands moving with the entitlement of someone who saw my belongings as an extension of her own. I froze, the spatula in my hand suddenly heavy. "They should be in the side pocket," I said, keeping my tone even though my stomach twisted. I turned back to the pancakes, mediating Emma and Jake's squabble over cartoons, but the air felt wrong, charged with a tension I couldn't name. "Found them," Ashley announced, but her voice shifted a note of shock, cutting through her usual composure. "Oh my goodness, what is this?" I turned, and there she was standing by the counter, holding the lottery ticket in her trembling hands. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, as if she'd unearthed a relic from a forgotten world. The hum in the house surged a low roar that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards. "Dot," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Did you buy a lottery ticket?" I kept my expression neutral, though my heart pounded. "I buy one every week," I said. "Same numbers for 32 years. Ashley stared at the ticket, her fingers clutching it like a lifeline. "Dot," she said, her voice shaking now. "Do you know what the winning numbers were last night?" Before I could answer, she grabbed her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she pulled up the lottery results. Her breath caught, and she let out a shriek that brought Marcus running from his office, his golf shirt half-buttoned, his hair still messy from sleep. "What's wrong?" he demanded. "Is someone hurt?" "The lottery ticket," Ashley said, thrusting it at him with trembling hands. "Look at the numbers. Look at last night's drawing." Marcus took the ticket, his frown deepening as he read the numbers. Ashley showed him her phone, the winning combination glowing on the screen. 14, 23, 31, 40, the Powerball, 18. The kitchen fell silent. The only sound Emma's voice from the living room asking if anyone was going to make pancakes. Marcus looked up at me, his expression unreadable, but I saw the spark in his eyes, greed perhaps, or something darker. Mom, he said slowly, do you realize what this means? I realized exactly what it meant. The question was whether they did. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands folded, watching the chaos unfold like a play I'd seen coming. Ashley was pacing now, her phone pressed to her ear, her voice rising as she spoke to what sounded like every contact in her address book. 53 million. Yes, million. We won the lottery. We won. That was interesting. The word hung in the air, a claim they hadn't earned. Marcus was still holding the ticket, examining it like a detective searching for a flaw. This is real, he muttered, his voice tinged with disbelief. This is actually real. Emma and Jake appeared in the doorway, sensing the shift in the room. Are we rich now? Emma asked, her eyes wide with childish wonder. We're very rich, sweetheart, Ashley said, scooping her up and spinning her around the kitchen. We'll never have to worry about money again. I watched them, my coffee cup cold in my hands, the hum in the walls, now a steady pulse. I thought of Harold, his half-smile in my dreams, his warning about secrets. The ticket wasn't just money, it was power, and they thought it was theirs. I almost laughed, but I held it in, letting the moment stretch, letting them build their castle in the air. Marcus turned to me, the ticket still in his hand. Mom, we need to call a lawyer, a financial advisor, probably an accountant. There are taxes to consider, claiming procedures. He trailed off, his eyes darting to Ashley, who was already nodding. And we should call the contractor. She interrupted, her voice bright with new plans. If we're millionaires, we don't need the cheapest options for the basement anymore. The basement. Even now, with 53 million dangling before them, they were still planning to tuck me away out of sight. Ashley's voice took on that calculating tone I'd come to know so well. Actually, we should think bigger than the basement. With this kind of money, we could buy a bigger house, something with a proper mother-in-law wing, or... Her eyes lit up and I braced myself. We could look into one of those nice senior communities for Dot, the expensive ones with activities, medical care, everything. There it was, their plan to dispose of me, wrapped in the guise of generosity. Marcus nodded, his enthusiasm almost convincing. That's a great idea, Mom. You'd probably be happier with people your own age, right? And we could afford one of the really nice places now. I watched them, my son and his wife, making plans for my future with money they assumed was theirs. The hum in the house grew louder, a chorus now urging me to act. I thought of Harold, his voice in my dreams. The ticket is your key. I set my coffee cup down, my movements deliberate, and spoke quietly, my voice cutting through their excitement like a knife. There's just one small detail we should probably address. They turned to me, their expressions expectant, slightly impatient, as if I were a child interrupting an adult conversation. Ashley's smile was tight, Marcus's hands still clutching the ticket. What's that? Ashley asked, her tone laced with condescension. I held out my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Marcus placed the ticket in my palm. It was warm, impossibly so, and for a fleeting second, I swore I saw Harold's silhouette in the corner of the room, his eyes gleaming with approval. The lottery ticket, I said, my voice calm but unyielding, is in my name. The silence that followed was different from before. It wasn't the shocked silence of unexpected good news. It was the horrified silence of people realizing they'd built their dreams on a foundation of sand. Ashley's face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Marcus's eyes widened. The ticket's absence, leaving his hands empty, searching for something to hold on to. "What do you mean?" Ashley asked, her voice slow, as if she could will the words away. "I mean," I said, looking down at the ticket, its numbers glowing faintly in my hand, "that I bought this ticket with my money from my purse, using the numbers I've played for 32 years, which makes it mine." Ashley's face flushed, her eyes darting to Marcus as if he could fix this. But, but you live here. We're family. That money, it changes everything for all of us." "No," I said, standing up from the table, my voice steady, my heart pounding with a strength I hadn't felt in years. "It changes everything for me." The hum in the house surged a triumphant note that seemed to echo my words. Marcus and Ashley stood frozen, their faces a mirror of dawning realization. The ticket wasn't theirs. The power wasn't theirs. And for the first time in 2 years, I saw them for what they were: not family, but opportunists who'd miscalculated their prey. Mom Marcus said, his voice careful, as if he were handling a live wire. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yes, technically, the ticket is in your name, but we're family. We share things. We support each other." I almost laughed, the sound bubbling up before I swallowed it. "Support? Like charging me $300 a month to live in their guest room while I cooked, cleaned, and cared for their children, like planning to banish me to the basement because my presence was inconvenient." The hum grew louder, and I felt Harold's presence, his strength flowing through me like a current. "You're right," I said, my voice sweet but sharp. "We do support each other, like how I've supported you with my Social Security check every month while doing your housework and childcare for free." Ashley's eyes narrowed, her business brain kicking into gear. I could see it the way she was calculating, searching for an angle. "Honey," she said, using the tone she reserved for her most important clients. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. The monthly contribution you make, that's not rent. That's just your share of household expenses. We've never thought of you as a tenant." "Is that so?" I tucked the ticket back into my purse with deliberate care, feeling its warmth against my fingers. "Then I suppose you won't mind if I stop contributing to household expenses immediately, since I'm family, not a tenant." Marcus stepped forward, his hands raised like he was calming a wild animal. "Mom, let's take a breath. This is huge news. Life-changing news. We need to think through the implications carefully." "Oh, I've been thinking," I said, my voice steady, my eyes locked on his. "For about 8 hours now since I saw those numbers last night, and I've come to some interesting conclusions." Ashley's smile cracked at the edges, her composure fraying. "What kind of conclusions?" "For starters," I said, leaning back in my chair, "I have concluded that $53 million is enough to live very comfortably for the rest of my life without depending on anyone for housing." The temperature in the room seemed to drop, the hum now a low, steady pulse that seemed to underscore my words. Ashley's face paled further, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. "You're not serious," she whispered. "You wouldn't just leave. Not after everything we've done for you, everything they'd done for me." The words hung in the air, absurd and hollow. I thought of the laundry I had folded, the meals I'd cooked, the $1,500 to $600 I'd paid them over the past year. I thought of the basement, of Ashley's dinner party laughter, of Harold's voice in my dreams. The ticket in my purse felt alive, its warmth spreading through me, fueling the fire that had been smoldering for too long. "I'm very serious," I said, standing now, my voice ringing with a clarity I hadn't known I possessed. In fact, I'm planning to call the lottery office first thing Monday to claim my prize. Then I'll start looking for a place of my own. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, his panic visible now. Mom, you can't make decisions like this when you're emotional. This is too big, too complicated. You need help managing this kind of money. From who, I asked, my eyes narrowing. You. Yes. He said, his voice desperate. From us. We're your family. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. When had Marcus become this man, someone who thought I was too weak to manage my own affairs? When had he decided that being my son gave him rights to my choices? The hum in the house was a roar now, and I felt Harold's presence stronger than ever, his voice whispering, "You're stronger than you know." When your father was dying, I said, my voice quiet but unyielding. He made me promise something. Do you know what it was? They went still, their eyes locked on me. The room seemed to darken, the shadows shifting as if Harold himself were standing beside me. He made me promise not to let anyone take advantage of my kindness. I continued. He said people would try, especially family, because they'd assume I was too polite, too weak to stand up for myself. Ashley cleared her throat, her voice trembling. Dot, I think you're overreacting. This is just a miscommunication. Am I? I reached into my purse and pulled out a small notebook, its pages filled with numbers I had been tracking for months. The hum softened as if approving. Let me share some numbers with you. Over the past year, I've paid you $1,500 to $600 in household expenses. I've provided approximately 1,200 hours of unpaid childcare, 800 loads of laundry, 300 meals, and cleaned this house top to bottom every week. Ashley's face reddened, her eyes darting to Marcus for support. He looked away, his hands clenched at his sides. In return, I continued, You've given me a guest room you're planning to replace with a basement cell, and the privilege of hearing you discuss my life as a business venture at your dinner parties. That's not family, Marcus. That's exploitation. The word hung in the air, heavy as the snow outside. The hum pulsed in agreement, and I felt a surge of strength as if Harold's hand was on my shoulder. Emma and Jake were watching from the doorway, now their eyes wide, sensing the shift in the room. I looked at them, my heart aching for the innocence they still carried, and then back at Marcus and Ashley, whose faces were masks of panic and denial. We've provided you a home, Marcus said, his voice weak, almost pleading. You've provided me room and board in exchange for payment and labor that exceeds what you've given by about $20,000, I said, my voice steady. That's not generosity, son. That's a business deal, and a bad one. Ashley was crying now, but her tears were the kind you shed when you're caught, not when you're sorry. Dot, we never meant it like that, she said, her voice breaking. We needed help. And you were family. I stood smoothing my sweater, the ticket in my purse, a burning reminder of my power. You thought I was too old, too grateful to see what you were doing, I said. But I see now. And thanks to this ticket, I have the means to do something about it. As I turned to leave the kitchen, the hum reached a crescendo. And for a moment, I swore I saw Harold's silhouette in the doorway, his eyes gleaming with pride. The ticket was more than money. It was my freedom, my justice, my truth. And Marcus and Ashley were about to learn what happens when you underestimate a woman who's been touched by something greater than greed. The hum in the house was no longer a whisper. It was a roar, a chorus of unseen voices urging me forward. I stood in my room, the lottery ticket warm in my hand, its numbers 7, 14, 23, 31, 45. Powerball 18 glowing faintly in the dim light of dawn. It was Sunday, and the weight of my $53 million win settled over me like a mantle, not just of wealth, but of power. The ticket was more than money. It was a key, a weapon, a truth that had been waiting for me to claim it on what? Harold's voice echoed from my dreams. They're hiding something, Dot. Look closer. Today I would look. Today I would see. The kitchen confrontation yesterday had left Marcus and Ashley reeling, their faces pale with the realization that the ticket was mine, not theirs. But they hadn't given up. I could hear Ashley downstairs, her voice low and urgent, strategizing with Marcus over breakfast. "We need to talk to her," she was saying, her tone clipped professional. "This is too big for her to handle alone. She needs us." I smiled, a small secret thing. They thought I was still the docile widow, the grateful tenant who'd bend under their pressure. But the hum in the walls, the warmth of the ticket, the dreams of Harold, they'd awakened something in me, a strength I'd forgotten I possessed. I slipped the ticket into my purse next to Harold's driver's license and felt his presence steady and sure, as if he were standing beside me. "You're stronger than you know," he'd said in my dreams. Today I would prove him right. Ashley greeted me at the breakfast table with a 3-ring binder and a smile that was all teeth. "Good morning, Dot," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "I've been doing some research." She opened the binder, revealing printed articles about lottery winners, their pages highlighted in yellow. "Did you know that 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years?" I poured myself a cup of coffee, settling into a chair to watch the performance. "Is that so?" I said, my tone neutral, though the hum in the room pulsed in time with my heartbeat. "Absolutely," Ashley said, flipping through her pages with practiced efficiency. "The statistics are terrifying. Poor financial decisions, bad investments, family members taking advantage. It's a disaster for most people." She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "That's why you need professional guidance. Family guidance." Marcus appeared in the doorway looking like he hadn't slept. His hair was disheveled, his eyes shadowed with worry. "Mom, Ashley's right," he said, his voice soft but insistent. "This is too big for any one person to handle alone, especially someone your age." Ashley nodded, her smile tightening. "No offense, Dot, but managing $53 million requires expertise in tax law, investment, strategy, estate planning. It's incredibly complex." I took a sip of coffee, studying their earnest faces. They'd clearly spent the night preparing this intervention, crafting their arguments like a corporate pitch. It was almost touching the effort they put into convincing me I was incompetent. "You've given this a lot of thought." I observed, my voice calm, but edged with something they didn't yet recognize. "We care about you." Marcus said, his hands clasped tightly. "We don't want you to make mistakes that could ruin your financial security." "What kind of mistakes?" I asked, tilting my head, letting the hum guide me. Ashley seized the opening, her voice brisk. "Well, for instance, buying a house without understanding the tax implications, or making large purchases without considering long-term cash flow, or trusting the wrong people with your money." "The wrong people," I repeated, setting my cup down with deliberate precision. "Like who?" "Like financial advisors, who charge huge fees," Ashley said, her words tumbling out, "or investment managers who push risky products, or family members who might try to take advantage of your generosity." She said it without a trace of irony, her eyes wide with sincerity. I leaned back, the hum now a steady pulse, as if the house itself was nodding in agreement. "Ashley," I said, my voice soft but unyielding, "let me ask you something. When I moved in here, did you research the average cost of assisted living facilities in our area?" Her eyes flickered a flash of something guilt, perhaps, that she quickly masked. I. What do you mean? I mean, I continued, did you look up what it would cost me to live somewhere else so you could price my room and board competitively? Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his hands fidgeting. Mom, we never thought of it that way. Because I did some research myself yesterday, I interrupted, pulling a small notebook from my purse. The hum surged, and I felt Harold's presence, his hand on my shoulder, guiding me. The average cost of a private room in a quality assisted living facility around here is about $1,800 a month. That includes meals, housekeeping activities, medical support. You've been charging me $100 to $300 for a guest room and the privilege of doing my own housework, cooking, and childcare. That's not family helping family. That's a business arrangement and not even a fair one. Ashley's face flushed, her composure cracking. It's not about money, Marcus said, his voice desperate. It's about family, about staying together. Is it? I asked, my eyes locking on his. Then why were you planning to move me to the basement? Neither of them had an answer. The hum grew louder, and I closed Ashley's binder, sliding it back across the table. I appreciate your concern about lottery winners going bankrupt, said, but I think you're worried about the wrong person making poor financial decisions. Ashley's voice was sharp now, her professional mask slipping. What's that supposed to mean? It means I said standing that I've been subsidizing your lifestyle to the tune of about $20,000 a year. Meanwhile, you've been planning renovations, taking vacations, buying new furniture, all while charging your elderly mother-in-law market-rate rent for substandard accommodations. Marcus looked confused, his brow furrowing. Substandard? Mom, this is a nice house with no privacy, no independence, and a landlord who treats me like domestic help. I said, my voice steady, my heart pounding with a strength I hadn't felt in years. But that's all about to change. Where are you going? Ashley asked, her tone sharp as I moved toward the door. To call my lawyer, I said, and the look of panic that crossed their faces was a memory I'd treasure forever. By Monday afternoon, the news of my lottery win had spread through Cedar Falls like wildfire. Jimmy Murphy must have connected the dots when he saw the winning numbers, because by noon, 3 news vans were parked outside Marcus and Ashley's house, their cameras glinting in the winter sun. I watched from my bedroom window as reporters knocked on the door, their voices eager for a glimpse of the mystery millionaire. Ashley answered each time, her hair perfectly styled, her smile camera-ready. Mrs. Williams is resting and not available for comment, she told the Channel 7 reporter, her voice dripping with false warmth. But as her family were just so excited for this blessing in all our lives. The phrase was becoming Ashley's mantra, a claim she repeated like a spell to bind the money to her. My phone had been ringing non-stop since morning, old friends from church, former co-workers, even my cousin Patricia from Minnesota, all wanting to congratulate me, to share in the excitement, to ask what I'd do with the money. But I ignored the calls, my focus on the meeting I had arranged with David Richardson, the lawyer Harold and I had trusted for decades. David was expecting me at 2:00 p.m., and I was ready for answers. As I prepared to leave, Ashley intercepted me at the front door, her eyes wide with concern. Dot, you can't go out there now. There are reporters everywhere. They'll mob you. I have an appointment. I set my purse slung over my shoulder, the ticket inside it warm against my side. Can't it wait? She pressed Marcus, appearing beside her, their bodies forming a barrier. At least until the media attention dies down. No. I said, my voice calm but firm. It can't wait. Mom, be reasonable, Marcus said, his tone pleading. You're not equipped to handle this kind of media circus. Let us help you navigate this. Navigate. Another of Ashley's corporate buzzwords. I looked at them, my son and his wife standing in my way, and felt the hum in the house pulse stronger, as if urging me forward. I've been navigating my own life for 67 years, I said. I think I can manage a walk to my car. But when I opened the door, I understood their panic. The front yard was a sea of reporters' cameras, flashing microphones poised like spears. Mrs. Williams, they shouted, surging forward. How does it feel to win 53 million? What are you planning to do with the money? Is it true you've been playing the same numbers for over 30 years? I paused on the front step, the hum a steady rhythm now Harold's presence a warmth at my back. Behind me, Marcus and Ashley hovered, probably hoping I'd retreat, let them manage the narrative. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, channeling a strength I hadn't known I had. I'm very grateful for this blessing, I told the reporters, my voice clear and steady. As for what I'm planning to do, I'm going to use it to live independently and make my own choices for the first time in 2 years. What do you mean by that? Mrs. Williams, a reporter, asked, her microphone inching closer. I glanced back at Marcus and Ashley, framed in the doorway, their faces pale. The hum surged, and I felt Harold's hand on my shoulder, his voice in my ear. Tell the truth, Dot. I said, turning to the cameras, that sometimes the people you trust most take advantage of your kindness, and sometimes the universe gives you the resources to do something about it. The reporters pressed closer, sensing a story. Can you elaborate? One asked. I've been living with my son and daughter-in-law for 2 years, I said, my voice steady, paying them $1,300 a month in rent while providing unpaid domestic and child care services. They were planning to move me to their basement because my presence was inconvenient. But now that I have the means to live independently, I'll be finding my own place, somewhere I can be a guest when I visit my son, not a paying tenant in his home. Are you saying your family took advantage of you financially? A reporter asked, her eyes gleaming. I looked directly into the camera, thinking of all the others who might be watching, trapped in their own silent betrayals. I'm saying families should be about love and respect, not business arrangements. And I'm saying it's never too late to stand up for yourself, no matter your age. The questions came faster, but I'd said enough. I got into my car and drove away, the hum following me, a triumphant song. In my rearview mirror, I saw Ashley frantically addressing the reporters, probably spinning a tale of misunderstandings. But the truth was out broadcast across 3 counties, and I was just getting started. David Richardson's law office was a sanctuary, its wood-paneled walls and leather chairs, a reminder of the life Harold and I had built. At 75, David had the calm, methodical air of a man who'd seen life's complexities and knew how to unravel them. Dorothy, he said, rising from his desk with a warm smile. Congratulations. Harold would be so proud. Thank you, I said, settling into the familiar leather chair where Harold and I had planned our wills, our future, our legacy. The hum was softer here, but still present, a quiet reassurance. I saw the news coverage. David continued his expression, growing serious. Quite a statement you made. Was it too much, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not at all, he said, his eyes twinkling with admiration. Sometimes the truth needs to be spoken plainly. He opened a file folder, pulling out a yellow legal pad. Now let's talk about protecting your interests. Have you claimed the prize yet? I'm driving to Des Moines tomorrow to meet with the lottery officials, I said. Good, he nodded. I'd recommend the annuity over the lump sum for tax purposes. We'll need to set up trusts, maybe a charitable foundation if you're interested in philanthropy. We spent an hour discussing strategies, taxes, and estate planning, David explaining everything in clear terms, never once assuming I couldn't understand. But it was his next words that stopped me cold. "Dorothy, there's something else," he said, his voice dropping. "Something Harold made me promise to keep confidential unless specific circumstances arose." My stomach tightened, the hum surging again. "What circumstances?" "If your family ever tried to take advantage of you financially," he said, opening a thick file of documents. "Harold was more aware of Marcus and Ashley's situation than you realized." The room tilted, the air growing heavy. "What do you mean he knew they were living beyond their means?" David said, pulling out a folder. "He suspected they were planning to have you move in after his death, not out of love, but out of financial necessity. 6 months before he died, he hired a private investigator to look into their finances." I stared at him, my heart pounding. Harold knew. The hum was a roar now, and I swore I saw his silhouette in the corner of the room, his eyes sad but resolute. What did he find? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. David slid the documents toward me, columns of numbers painting a picture of recklessness and desperation. "Marcus and Ashley are in significant debt," he said. $47,000 in credit card debt across 6 cards. Their mortgage is underwater by $32,000. 2 car loans totaling $18,000. Ashley's business has been operating at a loss for 8 months. I stared at the papers, the numbers blurring as the truth sank in. Harold had seen this coming, had known they'd try to use me. "There's more," David said, his voice gentle. "Harold took out an insurance policy specifically to protect you if Marcus and Ashley became a problem. $500,000 paid directly to a trust account in your name. It's been earning interest for 2 years, waiting for you to need it. 500,000. The hum softened as if satisfied, and I felt tears prick my eyes. Harold had been protecting me from beyond the grave, his love a shield I hadn't known I needed. He knew I whispered. He knew this would happen. He loved you enough to prepare for it," David said, closing the file. "The question now is what you want to do with this information." I thought of Marcus blocking my path, Ashley's binder full of statistics, their assumption that I was too weak to stand on my own. I thought of Harold fighting cancer and fighting for me his final months spent ensuring I'd be safe. "David," I said, my voice steady, "I want a family meeting tonight. I want Marcus and Ashley to understand exactly what their financial situation looks like and exactly how much their mother-in-law knows. Are you sure?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. "Once you reveal this, there's no going back." I stood feeling stronger than I had in years, the hum a steady pulse of encouragement. "I've spent 2 years being treated like a source of income by people who were supposed to love me," I said. "Harold saw this coming and tried to protect me. It's time Marcus and Ashley learned what happens when you underestimate a Williams woman." David's smile was one of admiration, and I knew Harold was watching proud. The family meeting was set for 7:00 p.m. I spent the afternoon with David, organizing documents, planning my words, feeling the hum guide me like a compass. Marcus and Ashley thought they were coming to smooth over my emotional outburst with the reporters to regain control of the narrative. They had no idea they were walking into a reckoning. Ashley arrived first, armed with more articles about lottery scams and a laptop full of spreadsheets designed to manage my windfall. Marcus brought a bottle of wine, his expression conciliatory, as if a glass of Merlot could erase 2 years of betrayal. "Mom," he began, settling into the living room, "about what you said to the reporters. We understand you were overwhelmed." I wasn't overwhelmed. I interrupted, my voice calm but sharp. I was telling the truth. Ashley opened her laptop, her fingers poised over the keys. Dot. We've prepared a comprehensive financial plan that addresses all your concerns while ensuring your long-term security. Before we discuss my security, I said, reaching for the folder David had given me, let's discuss yours. I placed the first document on the coffee table, the hum, a low thrum now heralds presence, a warmth at my side. Marcus glanced at it, and the color drained from his face. What is this? Ashley asked, though her voice betrayed her. She knew. It's a financial profile of your household, I said. My voice steady, compiled by a private investigator your father hired before he died. He was worried about what would happen to me after his death, so he looked into your circumstances. Marcus stared at the papers, his hands trembling. Dad hired an investigator to spy on us. To protect me, I corrected, pulling out another document. You owe $47,000 in credit card debt across 6 cards. Your mortgage is underwater by $32,000. You have 2 car loans totaling $18,000. And Ashley, your business has been operating at a loss for 8 months. Ashley's composure shattered, her face reddening. How dare you invade our privacy, the same way you invaded mine? I said, my voice level, when you decided I was too incompetent to manage a lottery ticket I bought with my own money. For 2 years, you've used my Social Security payments to service your debt while treating me like a grateful dependent. Marcus found his voice, though it was weak, Mom. Everyone has financial challenges. Not everyone charges their widowed mother $300 a month to live as unpaid help while planning to move her to the basement, I said, placing another document on the table. This is a breakdown of what my living situation has cost me versus what it would cost to live independently. You've been overcharging me by $600 a month while extracting $500 worth of unpaid labor. That's over $25,000 a year you've taken from me, $50,000 over 2 years. The silence was profound, the hum a triumphant song. Ashley was crying now, her tears those of someone caught, not someone sorry. We never meant for it to be like that, Marcus said, his voice breaking. We needed help, and you were family. You thought I was too old to see what you were doing, I said, standing the ticket warm in my purse. But your father knew. He saw through you, and he made sure I'd have the resources to protect myself. I placed the final document on the table. This is notification of a trust fund Harold established for me 2 years ago, $500,000 earning interest waiting for me to need it. Marcus shook his head as if he could will the truth away. I don't understand. Dad never said anything, because he hoped he was wrong about you. I said, my voice softening with a sadness I couldn't hide. He hoped you'd treat me with the love and respect he taught you. Instead, you treated me like a business opportunity. I picked up my purse, the hum, a steady pulse now, and headed for the door. Where are you going? Ashley called, her voice sharp with panic. To start my new life, I said, pausing at the threshold. I've put a deposit on a beautiful apartment at Meadowbrook Senior Community. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, my own car space, and a monthly fee less than what I was paying you. Since you'll no longer have my income to help with your expenses, you might want to start planning how to manage that $47,000 in credit card debt. I hear financial stress can be challenging for families. As I walked out, the hum swelled, and I felt Harold's presence stronger than ever, his love a light guiding me forward. Their crisis was no longer mine. I had $53 million as a husband who'd protected me from beyond the grave, and the strength to reclaim my life. The snow fell softly outside Marcus and Ashley's colonial, a gentle curtain closing on the life I'd lived within its walls. I stood in the guest room, my prison, for 2 years, packing the last of my belongings into a single suitcase. The hum that had guided me, that strange pulse in the house, was quieter now, a contented murmur, as if it knew its work was done. My purse sat on the bed, the lottery ticket inside it, warm against Harold's driver's license, a talisman of the freedom I'd reclaimed. I was leaving not just this house, but the weight of betrayal, the shadow of being less than I was. At 67, I was starting over, and the thought filled me with a lightness I hadn't felt since Harold was alive. The family meeting last night had been a reckoning, a moment where truth cut through the lies Marcus and Ashley had built around me. Their faces pale with shock as I laid out their financial ruin. $47,000 in credit card debt, a mortgage underwater by $32,000 car loans. A failing business still lingered in my mind. But it was Harold's trust fund, that $500,000 he'd hidden away to protect me, that had sealed their silence. They'd underestimated me, thought me too old, too weak to see their greed, but Harold had known even in his final days, and his love had given me the strength to stand tall. I zipped the suitcase, my hands steady, and looked around the room one last time. The pale yellow walls, the white linens, the window framing their perfect lawn. It was a beautiful cage, but a cage nonetheless. The hum pulsed softly, and I swore I saw Harold's silhouette in the corner, his half-smile warm with pride. "You were right," I whispered to him, my voice catching. "The universe does balance the scales." Downstairs, Marcus and Ashley were waiting, their faces a mix of guilt and desperation. The news vans had left, but the story of the lottery widow who'd exposed her family's exploitation was still making waves across Cedar Falls. Ashley had spent the morning on the phone trying to salvage their reputation, but the truth was out, and no amount of spin could change it. Marcus stood by the kitchen island, his hands clasped, looking like the boy I'd raised, not the man who'd betrayed me. "Mom," he said as I entered, his voice soft, almost broken. "Can we talk before you go?" "There's nothing left to say," I replied, my tone calm, but firm. I set my suitcase by the door, my purse slung over my shoulder, the ticket's warmth, a steady reminder of my power. Ashley stepped forward, her eyes red from crying, though I doubted the tears were for me. "Dot, please," she said, her voice trembling. "We made mistakes. Okay. We got in over our heads financially, and maybe we leaned on you too much. But we're family. You don't have to do this. Do what I asked," turning to face her. "Live my own life. Make my own choices. You've had 2 years to treat me like family, Ashley. Instead, you treated me like a tenant, a servant, a line item in your budget." Marcus flinched, his eyes dropping to the floor. "I didn't mean for it to be like that," he said. "I thought we were helping each other." I looked at my son, my heart aching for the boy who'd once run to me with scraped knees, who'd promised to make his father proud. "You thought I was too old to notice," I said softly. "But I noticed. And so did your father." The hum swelled, a gentle encouragement, and I felt Harold's presence stronger than ever, his love a light guiding me forward. I opened my purse, pulling out a small envelope I'd prepared that morning. "This is for Emma and Jake," I said, handing it to Marcus. "It's a letter explaining why I'm leaving. I want them to know I love them, that this isn't about them. They deserve better than to grow up in a house where family is a transaction." Marcus took the envelope, his hands trembling. "Where will you go?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Meadowbrook Senior Community." I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "I put a deposit down yesterday. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, my own car space, and a monthly fee of $1,200 less than you were charging me. They have a library, a garden classes I can take. It's a place where I can be Dorothy Williams again, not just someone's mother-in-law. Ashley's face crumpled, her hands twisting together. Dot. We can work this out, she said, her voice desperate. You don't have to leave. We'll renegotiate the expenses, give you more privacy. No. I interrupted, my voice steady. The hum a chorus of agreement. You had your chance. I'm done being your safety net. I picked up my suitcase, the weight of it light compared to the burden I was leaving behind. As I opened the front door, the snow fell in soft, swirling flakes, and the hum softened a contented sigh. I turned back one last time, looking at Marcus and Ashley, their faces etched with the consequences of their choices. You might want to start budgeting for those credit card payments, I said. Without my income, you'll need to find another way to manage. I stepped outside, the cold air sharp but invigorating like a promise of new beginnings. The reporters were gone, the street quiet except for the crunch of snow under my boots. My car was packed with the essentials clothes, a few books, Harold's favorite coffee mug, and I drove away without looking back. The hum followed me, a gentle melody now, as if the house had released me, its work complete. Meadowbrook Senior Community was everything I'd hoped for and more. The apartment was bright with large windows overlooking a garden where roses bloomed even in winter, their petals dusted with frost. The staff welcomed me with warmth, not pity. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like a person, not a problem. I unpacked my suitcase, hanging Harold's photo on the wall, his smile a reminder of the love that had carried me here. The lottery ticket sat on my new desk, its warmth fading now, as if its purpose had been fulfilled. But the hum remained a soft presence, like Harold's hand on my shoulder. That evening, I sat by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. I thought of the dreams, Harold's warnings, the strange pulse in the house that had guided me to this moment. Was it him watching over me from beyond? Was it the universe balancing the scales as he'd promised? I didn't know, and maybe it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was free, not just from Marcus and Ashley, but from the weight of being less than I was. I opened my notebook, the one where I'd tracked their exploitation, and wrote a new page. Dorothy Williams, age 67, starts over. Below it, I listed my plans, not for the $53 million, though that would come, but for the life I wanted to live. I'd take painting classes, join the book club, visit Emma and Jake when they came to town. I'd travel to the places Harold and I had dreamed of: Italy, Scotland, the Grand Canyon. And maybe, just maybe, I'd start a scholarship fund for other women like me, those who'd been underestimated, overlooked, but never broken. The hum was gone now, replaced by a quiet peace that settled over me like a warm blanket. I thought of the reporters, the cameras, the story that had spread across Cedar Falls. My words to them had been more than a statement. They were a beacon, a message to anyone trapped in their own silent betrayals. It's never too late to stand up for yourself, no matter your age. I hoped someone out there was listening, that my story would give them the courage to claim their own. As night fell, I dreamed of Harold one last time. He stood in a field of roses, the air warm and golden, his smile brighter than I'd ever seen. You did it. Dot, he said, his voice clear, no longer a whisper. You found your strength. I had help, I replied, reaching for him, but he was already fading, his eyes full of love. You always had it, he said. And then he was gone, the roses blooming brighter in his absence. I woke with a smile, the morning sun streaming through my window, the world new and full of possibility. The lottery ticket was just a piece of paper, now its magic spent. But the strength it had awakened in me was mine to keep. I stepped into my kitchen, brewed a pot of coffee in Harold's mug, and began my first day as Dorothy Williams free. And to anyone out there feeling trapped, feeling small, your voice matters. Your strength is waiting. The universe has a way of balancing the scales, and sometimes it chooses you to tip them. Share your story, speak your truth, and never let anyone dim your light. Justice delayed is not justice denied. It's justice with better timing.